I myself am a classically trained pianist and composer who I was born in the USSR, Latvian Soviet Socialist Republic, and I was raised in the echoes of Soviet era. So that meant that in my classical training, I was strictly told what is right, what is wrong, what you can do, what you cannot do, what is frowned upon, etc. So when I listen to your music, to what you create, I am from the beginning I was amazed by the liberty, by the freedom, and by the atmosphere you create in addition to content. So maybe you could start with telling our listeners, what does this creative artistic liberty mean to you? Because I feel that might be a relevant category to you.
Yes, I think the only reason why I'm doing music, for example, is that I can do things without, asking permission. It is, it is clear to me. I was trained classically by a Russian teacher as well, Nahum Brodsky, and he had a similar vibe. He was very certain about what is good and what is bad, and what you should do and what you shouldn't do, and you need to hold your fingers like this and not like that. I saw people breaking the rules around me all the time, and I understood that while there are rules, there can only be there to be broken, Maybe we shouldn't break the law because then we end up in jail, but we can break rules. And I think that is a most wonderful thing in art in general, that it doesn't need to make sense, so to say. You don't need to justify everything you do. Sometimes you need to, when there's a critic wanting to know why is it like this. You're like, I don't know. It's just an impulse, and on the other hand, I try to be in favor to anybody who would want to step out of the cage of the normal things. I needed people to tell me, to show me how to exit the cage, and now maybe my role is to help other people exit the cage.
The cage being those norms, those pre-described categories.
Yeah, cage can be, in terms of art, it's mostly like a cage which you create by yourself. You think like, okay, you think in categories, you think in terms of what is good, what is bad, what people might like, what people might not like, and so on, and what is okay to do and what is not okay to do. And in terms of music, I think there's a great freedom you can take, because it's especially with instrumental music, it is a unique field where the more radical your approach is, the more it can serve the music, because we are at the point where most music is already there, and a lot of music was made, and we add more music to the catalog, and maybe we don't want to repeat what we already have. We want to try to find beautiful things which are new to us, which is hard, like it's really like, this is what I try to do. I try to not copy too much. Of course I copy all the time. We only copy most of it. 95% of my music is copied, and 5% maybe is my own idea, and if I can manage to do that, that's great. Sometimes I can manage, sometimes not, and so yeah, I think it needs to be, music for me needs to be like candy, like food. It needs to taste good, needs to be fun as well, needs to be interesting, it needs to be like a good wine. It shouldn't be just only be teaching you something, it should also be enjoyable to learn, and I think this is the atmosphere. I want an atmosphere in my music which is accessible, and when you're getting in there, you maybe get surprised or something, or you're irritated a little bit as well. But a general accessibility is something I like, because I just like to enjoy things, and music for me is a pure source of joy. it is not only an intellectual joy, it's also like a really physical joy. And if something sounds really beautiful, I get emotional about it, and that's good. You know, like if music only touches my brain, I only get intellectually stimulated, maybe it's not quite enough. If it's too dumb, if it's only addressing my guts and basic instincts, maybe it's also not so interesting. So I try to like really like find that resonance with the music where I feel like it's interesting and it's fun.
You mentioned also this idea of appeasing the taste of others, what others might like or might not like. How about diving a bit deeper into this, the category of self-doubt? Is it relevant to you at all?
Yeah, we all have it. We deal with it. I'm not here to judge nature. Be like, okay, we should be more happy. We should be less doubtful. We should be more confident. I don't think I can say anything about that. I try to just use all the emotions I have generally in my music, and doubt is one of them, and I get the opposite of that.
Extreme self-confidence?
For minutes or seconds at a time, you know, like, but it's just like, I think if you experience one thing, you might experience the opposite at another day, you know, like maybe not right afterwards, but at some point. Mm-hmm. You just like realize that's all connected, and music works with all these emotions in the end. So I'm for embracing all of that. You know, self-doubt is a category for sure. It means that you might throw something away which is good, which you shouldn't throw away, you know. But this is what artists do, you know. They throw away some of the best pieces because in that moment they didn't feel like it's good, you know. Some other person would say, "Oh, it's really good," yeah. But you need to find something you want to self-promote. And in the way you can self-promote something, it will be appealing to others. I think that's right. I mean, I only try to play things I feel good about, because then it will translate to the audience.
But talking about the audience, how important for you is this relation between yourself and those who are listening? Because we could get a little bit esoterical and speak about the exchange of energy, or maybe not even esoteric at all. Then there is this, again, approval by and validation and gratification in the same time while you are performing. Or maybe just quite on the opposite, you are with yourself and with all those magnificent beasts on the stage, the instruments, and the audience, they may be there and they might be somewhere else. So which is it, or is it something different?
Yeah, the role of the audience and the listener is most important. It's something which music journalism doesn't touch enough, that topic, I think. I mean, if you imagine music being made without anybody appreciating it or listening to it, is the music even there? You know, like is does the music exist then? And the question is interesting, because if there's only one other person who might listen to the music, then you already have a possible concert. You know, like the concert is happening between the audience and the performer. If one side is missing, there's no concert. So any concert is there's like only two main ingredients. It's like the performer and the listener, and so
transponder and transmitter.
Exactly, and that is a circuit, and that circuit has an exchange of energies and sixth sense and you know, like more things than we can intellectually describe are happening in a room full of people who are enjoying a concert. You know, like it's very interesting phenomenon.
What has been the strangest feeling, maybe pleasantly strange for you, while performing something unexpected? Have some unexpected emotions arisen for you, which you would not expect there to be?
Yeah, well, I mean, all the time things happen which throw you out or make you laugh or make you worried, or it is for me, if I remember something from a relationship with the crowd, usually it is a distraction. Like the things I don't remember are the most beautiful interactions, because that led to a point where I wasn't thinking about anything anymore, and that in that moment I'm also not writing anything on my hard disk. I'm just like there to make the music, and then afterwards you might ask me like, so how did it feel? And you're like, I don't know. I had no capacity in my brain to wonder about that, because even that is a brain activity. Writing down emotions, making memories, thinking about things. There's no space, like in the best moments where I'm really like sinking into the music and the performance with the audience together, all normal thinking stops, and afterwards it's a little bit like what happened? It was great.
Well, literally a trip.
A trip, and if I remember certain things from the audience, usually it's funny distractions or worrying distractions. People faint, you hear like a slam of a body, batch, and you already know, oof, someone
just had a turn to the worst.
Yeah, and then you hear like people whispering, okay, that's unfortunate, like, but then there's funny things, people yelling unreasonable things in the wrong moment, and the phone goes off in the just perfect time.
How do you deal with those ones? Because Kramer at some concert he just mimicked it on his violin.
Yeah, you cannot win that battle. You will never be the one who stopped phones going off in the concert. So I think
comedians do the thing that they collect the phones beforehand and they give it after the concert. Maybe you have to consider that one.
Yeah, I think for me it is. You can't really take responsibility for others so well as you can take responsibility for yourself, and I think the best way to change things are by convincing other people that certain things should be in their focus, and if maybe an awkward phone going off moment helps all the others, like turning the phone off and being like, yeah, I need to remember to turn my phone off. I think that is much better than like taking phones away from people as if they are criminals or something. So I'm very much for freedom, for liberal values, approaches in general, and not only in music. Also, I want to be treated like that as well. If I start treating people like idiots, they might treat me like an idiot too. That is the turning point.
Just a second ago, you mentioned that the best scenario for you during the concert is that you actually do not fully remember what you have done, because there was this otherworldly sensation or this feeling. But that requires a certain amount or great amount of preparation beforehand. So whether all the instruments are hooked up and set up correctly, obviously that's the job of your technicians and your crew, but still you yourself need to fully understand the directions in which you might potentially go during a performance, although you can choose only one of the potential 10 or 15. And that leads to the category of control. How important are you a control freak? Do you have a healthy amount of desire to control your own creative thought?
Yeah, I think everybody wants to control as much as possible, especially as an artist, where everything is so vague, and can be everything and nothing. The material doesn't give you a lot of structure. You need to be structured enough to give the material the structure. It's not the other way around. If you build a house, the house will tell the builder how it wants to be built. It works only in certain ways.
Oh, sure.
You can only, otherwise it falls apart. It will tell you what it wants. Music is not really falling apart on your head, so you get hurt, and you know, like, oh, the roof came down.
Mm-hmm.
Still, roof has structure. Still, music needs a roof and a foundation, and windows and a door, so to say. It needs certain elements, otherwise it's not music.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or it really stretches the term of what is a house, you know, like you can say, like,
music?
exactly, or what is music, you know, like, is when you leave the roof off, is it still a house or is it still music? And so I think, yeah, give the music structure, so it won't really structure you too much. I mean, there's wrong notes which make you feel, ouch, I shouldn't play that note again, and there's nice notes which feel a little bit better if you hit them, and so it kind of helps you to get ideas. But in the end, you really need to be structured enough to finish a song, to finish an album, to finish a tour, to prepare, and all of that. And everybody who prepared a concert or theater piece or any type of performance knows that the last rehearsal before the performance is always shaky, and the performance is usually better, you know, like.
And if this last rehearsal goes really good, then you have to be really
worried,
cautious.
Cautious about the first performance, and I think there's only so much you can control like that, you know. You can prepare very wisely and with a lot of attention, and still everything goes wrong in the moment where it shouldn't. And so you get a little bit spiritual about these things, and I as much as I would like to have more control about things, I also totally accept and respect where I need to let myself fall into the situation and just believe in a higher force that it will go okay, you know, like there's always a little bit of that, and if it doesn't really work out good, who cares, you know, like it's not like you're putting yourself in physical danger there. It's just maybe you put your career at risk because people might not want to see that again, but it's not so dangerous. It feels like it could be the end of your life, and if something goes wrong in a concert, or your things fail, or the sound goes out for some reason, technical issue.
Well,
you imagine,
have
like
acoustic instruments which will not fail you anyway.
It's better if that fails than if a plane fails over the Atlantic, you know, like so. I mean, there's other fields where you need to have full control, and in terms of music, I try to work as hard as probably people who work in building planes to make sure they don't crash. I really want to make sure it
What
goes
constitutes this hard work? Because from the purely pianistic perspective, we understand which that might entail, that exercising or preparing this or that piece, but you are far more than just a pianist. You create a whole world with the instruments you are currently on stage in Liepāja, and many more which are not here. So what is this well-prepared state for you?
It is more like a thing I do with my friends, you know, like building something bigger than I could do certainly alone, and to work with instrument builders together or technicians, studio technicians, enables me to understand sound better and understand all the recipes of my music better, because essentially it's instruments I'm using, and some of them are very basic and very simple, others are highly complex and refined, and to have a little bit of an understanding about that helps me to write music and use them also in a way maybe they shouldn't be used, but first you need to understand everything to forget everything, so to say.
I got the understanding, or at least the impression from materials available online, that from very early in your career you have understood quite well the physics, the acoustics, and the technical thing, with which, for example, me as just a classically trained guy, I struggle at times. But you still feel that there is a space, room to improve.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, acoustics is a field which is still like having some some secrets. It's not that we know everything about sound, and there's always like an edge to where we could go and look over the edge and marvel. Oh, what's that? Like we described most of what we want to know about hearing. There's still some sound waves in the air. We understand that quite well. The reflections on the wall and so on. The electrical side of it. We can measure certain things, but there's a lot of hi-fi freaks who show me things and play things to me where I feel like I can't describe that. There shouldn't be a difference, but I hear one. So certain things cannot be measured in music, and it's really hard. Like our ears are so highly sensitive that it kind of makes all measuring equipment sometimes look old, because our ears are so much more sensitive than microphones, for example. And so, we are still like in a field where we can only have like a religious type of belief in certain ways. Some people believe if they put gold on the contacts, it sounds better on the cable. Some people use that material. Some people say this. Some people say that. It's not like everything is like set in stone. And so it is good to learn and to understand hearing and hear a lot and listen a lot, and through that listening experience, you can make up your own way how you want to work, which microphone you want to use, which type of piano you prefer, how you want the piano to be adjusted. Yeah. There's so many like details you can take care of, and only if a vision of that, you can tell the piano tuner, look, I want my piano to sound like this and not like that. Make it sound like that more, and only if you can imagine a little bit like the sound part of the instrument, then I feel like you can orchestrate all these instruments together as well, because you understand all of a sudden this is an instrument for this register of the song. I need now a lower register. This could be that instrument. So you have to think a little bit more technical. Low instruments, high instruments, long notes, short notes. How does it work in a mix? If you only have
strings,
thinner strings, and more distance to the microphone or closer to the microphone, you need to have so much experience to make something sound remarkable. And
again, you mentioned that you appreciate collaboration and collaborative efforts, both with your friends, say like Olaf and Arnolds, and the technicians with whom you gain more knowledge from the purely technical side, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you talk about your craft with other people who are into the same field, you always benefit from that. Journalists talk to other journalists about their work. Pianists talk to pianists about their work, and the winemakers need to see other winemakers to learn. And so it is also a place where people come together and learn from each other, and I'm very grateful for that. I think we are a little bit, like a crew which really is trying to explore, and it's a little bit like a private university for all of us. We all learn constantly, and it's great.
Tinkering with things, tinkering with musical instruments. Again, one of your trademark sounds, because by now there is more than just one, is this felt, or the hammers of piano, if I'm not much mistaken. And this is one example of approaching what is known from a slightly different perspective and making a huge difference in terms of the sonic properties of the end result. Did you discover such desire or interest to experiment early on, or maybe you can pinpoint some point where it happened? What was the facilitator of that?
It was early on. I think I always like to manipulate the piano and see what happens if I put a book on the strings, and then all of a sudden all the strings were silent. Didn't sound so good. Put anything on the string. Sheet of paper. Then I discovered there were actually composers like John Cage and others who did that
Even the Rococo French harpsichordists, they also
in a grown-up way, people did that, and I felt entitled at some point to do certain experiments myself, respectfully always. I mean, I never wanted to destroy instruments. I just wanted to borrow a certain sound from them. They weren't offering without my help, so to say. And certain modifications on an instrument are just little tricks to hide problems, and so with the piano modifications to put felt in front of the strings, I was hiding many problems, because volume in itself is a problem in recording. Mm-hmm. The louder the sources you're gonna record, it's not right when I say the worse it sounds on a recording, but it's a little bit like that. Mm-hmm. It's much easier to record quiet signals.
But then the background noise becomes an issue. Or
at some point, the background noise comes a factor. That is
self-noise.
Self-noise is also a problem. So it shouldn't be too quiet, but if possible, also not too loud. So if you're recording a piano in a small room like we are now, like a normal, any room, and the piano is very loud, you will engage more reflections from the room which are unpleasant.
Yeah.
And if you play quiet, it will feel a little bit like the room is not there, and so you get less room on the recording, and you can then later put your own room on it as effects or something else, and so on. So I realized, like, okay, I play the quieter my instrument sounds in a room, the better the recording sounds. I can turn it up on the recording, basically.
Yeah.
Make the volume later, and not have it in a room. So I was like learning these things slowly. Also, when you play drums very quiet, or as quiet as possible. They sound louder in a recording, as if you play loud.
Sure.
Then they sound thinner.
Sure, no headroom anymore, and also
yeah. This is also like any tension system which makes music. Any vibrating tension system creates more overtones and less fundamental tone the louder you go. So things go from O to A. Mm-hmm. With volume, it goes thin and nasty, and this is just the way it is. So I try to like manipulate little things to get a certain sound from the instrument, and felt helped me to make the piano sound more like a piano in the end than I felt it would sound without it.
This is the thing that we both know, and any pianist knows, that piano is it's an umbrella term for something sounding terrible and flat, mm-hmm. to something sounding like super rich, and if you push the right pedal, you basically go away into other spheres. Mm-hmm. So you just mentioned probably one of the recipes how to deal with potentially lacking instrument and try to turn a defect into an effect, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a great studio with a perfect Steinway in a recording concert hall, happens, right? Exactly, then you maybe just play your piece, But if that doesn't happen, and for most people it doesn't happen, and for me, obviously, it didn't happen, especially not in the beginning, that I had good instrument or good room. I was like learning how I could make an interesting sound without promoting my bad piano in a bad room. Too much, I didn't want the bad part of my setup to be in the forefront. I wanted something else I wanted that to be in the background.
Yeah, you wanted to focus on something different, basically your art.
Yeah, or just exactly let the music be as beautiful as it can without like having like the instrument being a problem, And so I think I learned over the time that with the possibility of you improvising and not having a fixed idea of what you want to do, you can approach almost any situation as a musician and turn the situation into a composition when you listen. Mm-hmm. I could now take a stick and make a song on the chair or in the room, on the glass, on the couch. Give me half a day and recording equipment, I would turn all of this into a song. And I would make decisions constantly of how hard I hit something, how close I record it, because I feel like you can get a good sound basically out of anything, if
well,
you
good being absolutely subjective category, but still quality sound, yeah.
or whatever, like for you, like it's hard to describe what is good, but what for me personally would be good sound out of everything if you don't have something planned before, and if you're completely then inspired and open to what is happening. And so I think this is how I approach a piano or any instrument. I listen to the room, to the instrument, to everything, and then I try to find these combination of notes the situation requires. And this helps me to make the music. I think I wouldn't have any other starting point for my songs if it wasn't for that approach.
Listeners would not forgive me, this being Latvia, if I wouldn't ask you about your previous collaboration with Davids Kleviņš and his Una Corda. This is quite a specific instrument. I myself own a Kawaii Junior, this small, peculiar instrument, and Una Corda is in a way a little similar to that. Where do you fit this particular sound, this particular vehicle for your inspiration into your overall creative panorama?
Well, it's a classical case of instrument building, isn't it? I felt like it would be interesting to have a piano with only one string, and when I met David Kleviņš to record on his piano in Germany, the 370 in 2014, we discussed pianos in general, and I told him about the idea of what he called is Una Corda, and he had a similar idea. And if we wouldn't want to build one, and so we took all our concepts we had in mind, and I wanted something to be able to tour, a piano without a lid. I didn't want a piano without housing around it and candle holders and so on, because I felt like you need to sound go freely.
Yes.
And so there were some ideas, and then he sketched out a design, and we started with a prototype, and now he's going into series production, producing, I think, many instruments over the time, and that is one of the many stories. I encountered him as an expert on pianos, and I learned from him. He got inspired by me, and was a great exchange. So that happens quite often, and with David it was a fantastic learning phase for me. I learned so much about pianos and alternative ways of building them, and so these things are always up to change. Like a piano seems like a old thing which is finished. You don't need to think about it anymore. It's done. The Steinway is it, and so on. It's great, but I mean, if people are open to a new sound, there's many different ways of making a similar instrument which sounds unique, and I think that is also good to have. For me, pianos sound a little bit too similar now. These days. They're all basically a copy of the good ones, so to say.
It's Steinway or Bechstein or
exactly. They copy the good ones. Some are more pricey, others are a little bit more affordable, but they all try to be the similar piano. And I like guitars because they're sometimes small, sometimes big, sometimes they have 12 strings, sometimes 6, sometimes this. And they can be electric, acoustic, can have so many different sounds. And I think the piano world needs a little bit of that back. Yeah.
How many instruments do you play? I mean, apart from piano?
I don't even know. I play piano and everything which has keyboards, like synthesizers, organs, harpsichords and celestas. And there's numberless different piano-like instruments I would feel entitled to play, just because I know the keyboard well enough. But I play also glass harmonica now, and I like to play percussions, kalimba. I played a lot of timpani in school, and I'm good with drums, I think, and everything which is rhythmical.
Do you play drum set as well?
Like drum set is a little bit with the feet and so on. It's not my favorite. I'm not I think playing drums is really something you need to do every day. But I like to play any type of percussions, really. More orchestral percussions and slit drums, tuned percussions, so to say. Yeah, I play the chair if needed, you know.
Marvelous instrument,
Yeah.
sure. And depending on the material, also very versatile.
Exactly.
I feel that I have taken a lot of your time up, so to let you prepare, maybe last question.
Yeah.
And that might be a very simple one or very hard one. Some people search and yearn for inspiration, others seek motivation, and the third ones say that you need consistency. So which one are you, or maybe you have some other recipe?
Consistency. Yeah, I think we all feel incomplete to some extent, and if we have too much of the one thing, we might miss some of the others. So I think if you have a little bit of everything, that's probably the best. Not too much of everything, because that makes you dogmatic. I was never excluding anything. If somebody gives me like, do you want chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry? I'm like, yeah, give me all.
I'll try to make them in order which I feel is best for me, right? Sir, thank you very much.
Absolutely,
for your
no,
time and
thank you.
attention.
Thank you for the great questions.
And we appreciate you being here in Latvia.
Yeah, me too.